Alright, so this is Ordinary Madness, episode 56. I'm Steve Barker, and with me today is Seattle producer, rapper, writer, Spekulation. And so most recently, the biggest thing I think that's happened to you is the About That Action song. So I'm just curious, like, how that came about, and like when you made it, did you have any expectations? Because it's obviously gone huge.
Right. No. And I made it... I won't say I made it as a joke, but I just moved, or I did just move, and I just built my studio. So it was really just like my first beat that I decided to make in my studio. I was really just like looking for an excuse. But, yeah. It's like 3 notes, and it's like a minute and 20 seconds long. So it's like even barely a song, and I just kind of put it... I expected that every producer in town was going to have a remix of that speech.
Oh, yeah.
By, like, the next morning. So I just thought I was going to be, like, one of the guys that did that, and then, like, it'd be fun, and we could, bat that stuff around between the producers, but nobody else did it. And
was that one of those ideas where you thought, like, oh, everybody's going to do this, I want to be, like, one of the first guys to do it?
No, not even that. I was like, I'll do this. I'll be, like, in the middle of the pack. It'll be, like, a fun thing, and then, like, we can all trade them around or something. I mean, like, even before I put it out, I, like, worked on the beat for, like, an hour, and then I had to go pick up my wife, and I, like, Instagrammed something from my studio that was just, like, I can't be the only guy in town doing this right now. And it was just, like, of the beat. And then I came back home and finished it and put it up a couple hours later. And by the next morning it blew up. But I was very much like, where's everybody else? Like,
right.
What are you guys doing? So, yeah, I had no expectations.
So was it less than 24 hours in the time that you put it up before? Because it was one of those things where, like, 5 different people either, like, tweeted it at me or, like, emailed it. I saw on people's Facebooks and everything.
It blew up. It was on, like, Bleacher Report by the end of the day in those first 24 hours. So,
wow.
Yeah. And that was cool. I didn't really know what Bleacher Report was before that, but people tell me it's a big deal. So, I mean, that's the thing. I'm not, like, a huge sports fan. I really appreciate, like, the sport of football, and I, like, seeing this town in the last month has been crazy, and I've gained a huge appreciation for what it can do for a city. But I wasn't even like, rah, let's go Seahawks. Like, it was really just like, that was a dope interview. His voice and cadence is kind of musical. I'm gonna, like, make a beat, and it'll be funny.
Nice.
And I don't know, it worked out okay, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's a great song. And then how long was it before? Was it Prometheus Brown who did the, like, remix?
So, like, I tweeted it out. I posted it at, like, 11 o'clock at night, and then tweeted it out the next morning. And then, like, Gio retweeted it right after that. And from there, it kind of, like, really exploded. So, like, I give him a lot of the credit for that first, like, push. I don't think a lot of people would have even heard it had he not, like, retweeted that.
Yeah.
And then that night I put out an instrumental version that was, like, long enough for rappers, and by the next morning he had something that he sent over. So, and he kind of killed it. So, like, I was super stoked. That was definitely, like, of all the things that happened that week, that was, like, far and away the coolest, because I've looked up to him for a long time, so it was really cool.
Yeah. So did you not know he was doing it until after it was done?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Oh, that's exciting.
He sent me, like, the final posted SoundCloud link, so it was hella exciting.
Nice.
I was really geeked out, and I was at work and trying to stay cool and not be doing the, like, jump around the office and waving my phone around, but, like, it was cool.
and were you and him friends or anything before that, or
no,
he just heard
we
it?
Knew each other. Like, he used to come into the coffee shop where I worked in Georgetown, and then I work up at the station on Beacon Hill now, and he comes in there from time to time. So we kind of knew each other. We followed each other on Twitter, but this was the first, like, musical thing, Yeah. So it was really cool.
Nice. And then, so before all that, you were just telling me that you're not from Seattle. So, like, was moving to Seattle something you were doing to pursue music, or was it just you wanted to check out Seattle? Or?
Well, I moved here after college 8 or 9 years ago with my then girlfriend. And then that didn't work out, so I moved back home like 6 months later. And after just like 3 or 4 weeks in Jersey, I was like, oh, there's like that thing in Seattle that I missed that I didn't really realize was there. So yeah, like 6 weeks after moving home, I just got in my car and drove back here. So
nice. You drove from
Jersey.
Wow,
yeah.
That's what, like 2-day trip, 3-day trip.
3-day. I did it in 3. Yeah, I was determined, so it was good.
Nice. So like, when did all this music is like? When you went to college, like, is music something that since you were little that this was you're going to pursue?
No, music. When I was like a teenager, I had such like a reverence for music that it wasn't like a thing that I considered doing. It was a huge part of my life and a huge part of like most of the art that I consumed was music. But I had always kind of put it on a pedestal as something that was not accessible to me. And then in college, I started doing a lot of spoken word stuff, and that evolved into rapping, and then I just needed something to rap over, so I started learning how to make beats, and then now we're here.
Wow, because I just going through your catalog of all the stuff you have on Bandcamp, I thought you were like a producer first, and then just because you have so many albums that are just like all production.
Yeah, just production. Yeah, the production stuff comes a lot easier to me. I work with a lot of samples, so like a lot of the stuff comes pretty started for me already. And now I work with a lot of live instrumentalists, and so they bring a lot to the table that makes my job super easy on the production end.
Right.
Yeah, rapping, especially in the last like two years, has been really hard for me. I've been having a difficult time getting back into whatever like mental groove I have to be in. And it's just easier. Like I have a lot of projects on there that are all instrumental because they've been commissioned pieces for choreographers or like film scores and stuff like that. Yeah, rapping is my true love, but production is definitely like a craft that I've gotten fairly good at. So it pays the bills.
Yeah. Well, I would say that. I gotta say, in the past 2 weeks, it's called the Doc Watson CD or whatever, the instrumental. I just came across it on your site a couple weeks ago, and I've probably listened to it at least once a day since then. And one of the main reasons is because I do a lot of writing, and especially living in this apartment in Capitol Hill, there's just noise everywhere, and so I like instrumental, kind of smooth, something that I can have in the background, and that's like been the CD that I've just been listening to.
Thank you. Yeah.
Because like, Grey Boy and stuff like that is what I've listened to, but all those CDs I've just like played out,
right.
And I was I needed something new, and I came across it was like,
dope.
I didn't know I was looking for it, but this is what I've been looking for.
Cool. Yeah, and that's definitely like kind of by design. Like I was the same way, and I used to do a lot of like creative writing and short fiction and stuff like that, and I would always have on like instrumental hip hop records like DJ Shadow and RJD2 and the DJ Premier mixtapes and stuff. But always just be in the background. So like whenever I put out an instrumental record, they're made for that. They're made for that environment. Yeah. It's like a place I feel very at home,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, DJ Shadow's one of those guys that do that too. And would you say like that's somebody that influences the way you make those records, or? Yeah,
for sure. He's like so leagues above anything that I can even begin to understand, that like he's more of an aspiration than an inspiration for me, I think, I'm like, he's so far removed from anything that I'm like capable of doing that I really just look to him as like a goal, an end goal, which is clearly unattainable. But yeah, I still listen to Introducing like once a week, and I still am like, oh, there's something new in there. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I'd have to say Introducing is got like one of my all-time albums of all time, and he's somebody who I don't have a producing background and wouldn't even know where to start, but listening to that, I know like he's doing some shit on there that like not everybody knows how to do.
Yeah, and it's phenomenal because he's able to blend it so seamlessly with the stuff that he isn't doing, right? So like all the samples are like doing a ton of work for him,
right?
But like all the heavy lifting that he's doing just blends in total. It's crazy. I just found on Spotify there's a long version, like an extended version of Introducing with like alternate.
Oh wow.
It's well worth listening to.
Yeah,
I've been really like the last month. I've been like, it gets to the last song and there's like another song and I'm like, holy shit! There's more of this record. Like,
wow.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah. I gotta check that out because that's one of the. I think that came out in like '98 or something.
Yeah,
98. Since then, I'm probably the same as you. Like, I've probably listened to it at least once a month.
Yeah, it just falls into rotation. I was like, oh, this is fine. Like, don't touch it. Nobody touch it. Like, and once it starts, you gotta finish it. You know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And he uses a lot of like vinyl and scratching. Do you do any of that?
No, but I have my DJ Absolute Madman. I have a lot of those aspects on my records, but none of it's done by me. He's a far better turntablist than I would ever dream to be. So I've learned living in Seattle that there's a ton of great artists, and it's best to find the person that's really good at that thing that you need rather than learning how to do that thing you need. So yeah, I usually just go and get him whenever I need that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and just speaking of finding good artists, I know you work with a lot of MCs, but one thing that just an hour or so before you came over here, I was looking through your videos, and I think it was the Sinnerman video. Mm-hmm. Is that the one with the guy dancing?
Yeah.
Because that's another thing. I don't know how to dance, but just watching that guy, I'm like, what the hell is he doing? Like, that seems unreal to me. It almost seemed like animation, like the way he was
that's
moving.
actually the style. The style of dance is actually called animation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's amazing. And his name's Marquise Scott. He's kind of like at the forefront of that like dubstep urban animation scene. And the first video that he posted to YouTube, which kind of like blew up and did the viral thing, he had like months of people accusing him of like just editing the video, and like so now all of his videos are like straight one-shot takes, like the Sinnerman video is, and like just don't move the camera, like don't give anybody any ammo to say that like you're messing with stuff.
Right.
Yeah, he's amazing. It's the opportunity to make that, and that was like a commissioned piece that I made specifically for him to dance to. Yeah, it was crazy.
And it works so well together. So like as a producer, is that kind of a mindset you have when you're going into a creative project? Like, okay, this is what I know I'm good at. Let me find the people who are good at the other things that we can all like kind of come together and make create something.
Usually it's like I end up doing so many different kinds of projects because usually it's like I meet somebody that does a thing, and then that inspires me to be like, oh, well, what could I add to that? So it's less about like me actively going out and finding like a particular thing that I'm looking for, and more about just like stumbling on things like string players or tap dancers or any number. I did a didgeridoo record like that I put out, which is unlistenable at parts, but like kind of cool at other parts, and like, but I would never like have set out to do a didgeridoo record. It just so happened that like.
Well, how do you stumble upon somebody who's really good at the didgeridoo?
The didgeridoo thing actually was a commissioned piece by a dance group here in Seattle, and they were looking to do like a didgeridoo Aboriginal themed piece. So they actually sent me the records to sample for that one.
Wow.
So that was more like a homework assignment, but it worked out. There's some cool things. It does really well. If you have a subwoofer, it sounds kind of good. So.
Nice. Yeah, I saw it on your website. I haven't checked it out yet.
It's interesting. I didn't realize, like, I took the gig because I'd worked with them before, and they're great to work with. They're called Serendip. They're really great. They do creative things. And I was like, oh, cool, like didgeridoo, that's like kind of like a dubstep-y, like wah 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 thing, right?
Right.
And then like I got all the records, and it just hadn't dawned on me that they only play one note. That's all they play. So like a didgeridoo song is just a note.
Right. Yeah.
So it took some like creative pitch shifting to like add some melody to it. But yeah, It's fun. It's worth
Yeah.
listening to, even just as like a thought experiment. You
know? I'll check it out. It's just I didn't have time. I found your Bandcamp, and I think I've listened to everything on there, and I've loved all of it. And the Jay-Z mashup, is it mashed up with just one person or just a bunch of jazz?
It's no, it's a remix project I did for the Jason Parker Quartet right before they put out their last record. And they're like a jazz group here in town with Jason Parker, Evan Floyd Barnes, Josh Rawlings, and Devon Lewis. And yeah, so I was friends with Jason. Jason was my trumpet player at the time. He sent me the masters to the record.
Yeah.
And I actually just to do like a sound test because I had good speakers at the time.
Right.
And then I sent him back like 3 hours later, and I was like, "Here, I fixed some of these for you."
With the Jay-Z stuff. Oh,
yeah. Nice. So yeah, and that was cool. That was like the first record that people like took notice of. So that was fun, and I got to like work with a lot of folks who had inspired me, and yeah, it was cool. It's a fun record.
Yeah, I like it.
It's like a laid back like '90s boom bap style.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those records that's good that I can listen to like with my girlfriend on Sunday morning when we're like hanging out, you know, and you don't want to listen to like some, you know, hardcore Jay-Z, you know, and you can still listen to hip hop, but it's, you know,
and it's cool. It was cool for me. I didn't really like appreciate how versatile his voice is, I think.
Yeah.
I've always been like a huge Jay-Z fan, but I didn't realize like there's a lot of like hard-hitting songs, or what I thought were really hard-hitting songs, but then like you put them over like a really sweet like Josh Rawlings piano lick,
right?
And, like it still fits perfect. Like he doesn't have to change his delivery. It was a cool learning process for me to like learn how these things kind of fit together. That was one of the first like full-blown jazz remix projects that I did.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when people are commissioning you for this, like when the first thing started, how did they know that you were like a good guy to go to? Have you always just been putting stuff out on the web, or?
Yeah, I mean, for at least the last like 5 years, I've been putting stuff out, and then the very first record I put out was more like a mixtape style rap record called The Bite, and it was all the theme of it was every beat on there was made by sampling a local musician.
Oh, nice.
So. And that was like 60% of that was like, oh, I need records to sample that I don't want people to come sue me for, and 40% was like, I really want to work with these people and I need to like prove to them what is possible. And so now most of those people are like work on my records now or are in my band when we do the live show. So yeah. What was the question? I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
Just how people came to you. But so with this commission stuff, it looks like more recently you've got into like scoring films and stuff like that. Is that something you were actively looking to pursue, or was it kind of something somebody came to you and you
somebody
were like...
came? So I did. I started doing the work for Serendip here in Seattle and did one remix record for them. Of Jan Tiersen stuff, who did like the Amelie soundtrack, like French, fucking accordions and pretty piano things. So I did that record for them, and then that kind of got passed around at the same time the Jay-Z record was getting passed around, and I guess some folks in New York and Chicago heard those two records simultaneously, and then they were going to go and produce this short film featuring a bunch of dancers, and I guess my name got batted around, so they got in touch with me and were like, hey, you do dance and you do hip-hop stuff, so let's do this.
Nice.
So yeah, and now I'm doing another short film right now. I just did the recording session for that, which isn't like dance-based, which is just like a straight-up short film. So it's cool. It's a cool, like, it's always a fun thought experiment, and it's cool to have restrictions, and it's cool to have, like, directors you need to satisfy, or like dancers you need to satisfy, or... I don't know. I'm just so trapped in my little like studio bubble all the time that it's cool to like have to answer to somebody. It's frustrating as hell. Like I'm immediately reminded that I'm a very difficult person to work with. But it's good. It's
so
good
like, are there scenes where you're like, oh, this needs something, and then the director's like, no, it needs the exact opposite of that?
Yeah. Yes. And like, and my immediate reaction is always like, take my goddamn name off this project. Like, and then I like eat a sandwich and take a nap, and I'm like, yeah, I guess he's kind of right. Like, yeah, it's just I'm so rarely put in those or had been so rarely put in those situations that like I'm still kind of learning how to adapt to those things. But it's good now. I kind of know what I need to like ask for from them and what kind of creative control I need. Working on the movie was really helped build my repertoire in terms of like just being able to communicate with directors and being able to communicate with dancers, both of whom speak very different languages and are like, I mean, we're just like talking over each other all the time. Like I'm worried about like the tone of the kick drum, and the dancer's worried about like the floatiness of the violin, and the director's like worried about transitions and stuff. And it's just like having to put all those puzzle pieces together is really frustrating but really rewarding. So.
Yeah. Do you think it might be something that you'll pursue later? Because as far as I know, putting out records these days doesn't pay much, but I know scoring like a major motion picture or something,
right?
Could, like,
it's a great supplemental thing, and it's really cool because it works a different part of my brain than making a rap record does, and it's the kind of thing. My guess is I would love to keep doing it, and I'd love to keep doing it steadily, but in the background,
right?
Because it's way better than like trying to do a Kickstarter for a rap record in 2014. Like,
right.
Like, there's no dignity there. No one wins. So hopefully those opportunities keep turning up. I think like we've built a big enough ensemble now where we have all the like instrumental tools we need, and the guy I collaborate with, Nate Omdahl, who does all the live instrumental arrangements. Like he went to Cornish. He knows exactly what people are asking for and can speak that language. So we make a good team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then so I have known about you for a couple of years, but not knowing, I've known two different sides of you. So the Bitter Barista thing, which was a pretty big story, probably like 2 years ago, right?
1 year.
1 year ago.
1 year ago last week, actually. Yeah.
So can you just take us through, because I'm assuming it was similar to the Marshawn Lynch when you started the Twitter. You didn't have expectations like one day this will be a book or anything like that.
No. So it started like I just had a Twitter account and have been fairly addicted to Twitter for a couple years now.
Yeah.
And would occasionally, I worked at a coffee shop in Georgetown called All City Coffee, and would occasionally like tweet out some snarky observation about the things that happened.
Right.
And then, I guess like a year and 3 weeks ago, one of my horn players in my band was like, he's a web designer, and he was like, hey, I want to make a website for you, and I'm just going to like compile all your like coffee related tweets. And I was like, okay, like I don't care. Like if that's a thing you've enjoyed to do, like cool, I'm like all for it. I'll like organize them or whatever.
Right.
And so we put them up, and there were like 100 of them. And then like a week later, he sends me an email and is like, holy shit, there's like, 50 people on the website. Like right now, there's just 50 people, and there have been for like 3 days. And like, that's like weird because it's just they're just tweets,
Right. Well, I think they affected anybody in the service industry. I think could read those and be like, I've been there.
Oh yeah. I think they're pretty universal, but like they are, I don't know. I mean, they're still just like the stoned rantings of like a lazy guy behind a counter.
Right. But that's what America wants.
Yeah, no, totally. Apparently, I hadn't been clued into that section of demand yet. So then like another week went by, and I get a call at work, and I pick up the phone, and they're like, "Is Matt Watson there?" And I was like, "Oh, this is him." And they're like, "Okay," and then they just hang up the phone, and I was like, "That was really weird." And I thought it was like a creditor or something, right. Basically. So I went home, and all right, I tweeted out something like, "If one of you guys just like called, that wasn't funny because I thought it was a creditor. Like, P.S. Can I borrow some money?"
Right.
And I posted that, and then like an hour later, I get a phone call from the horn player, and he's like, "Oh, I just got a Google alert on our website, and I found out who it was that called you. It's this website called Sprudge, which is like a froofy, like high-end, snobby coffee blog. who decided to do an expose on who the bitter barista was because I was like ruining the coffee industry, this untouchable industry.
Yeah.
I was so soiling their reputation. So they did this whole thing where they like pulled all like my Facebook pictures and like cut my wife out of my Facebook pictures and then just like plastered them up on the internet. So then I got fired the next day from that job, and then the like news media picked it up that night. And then it was like the perfect storm of dumb story and slowest news week in the history of the world.
Right.
And I was just like on the front page of like actual newspapers.
Do you know how they, because on the website it didn't have your name on it, right?
No, but they were
figured it
tweets.
out?
So all you had to do, I mean, like, they were quote unquote anonymous, but like I wasn't trying to, like, I mean,
right.
I didn't think anybody cared, or like what, like even if it blew up, I didn't think anybody would care because who cares? Like,
Yeah.
So I mean, I think they just probably put one of those things into Google, and the first hit was Bitter Barista, and the second hit was like my Twitter account from a month ago or something. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I wasn't trying to, because like, yeah, I didn't expect it. But yeah, so then it just grew into this thing, and we had already like joked about doing a coffee table book. And we had all this momentum, so we did a Kickstarter and raised like $8,000 and did a coffee table book, and now Amazon sells them, and it's dope. It's cool. We just passed. I can now support my weed habit on book sales. That was a milestone we passed yesterday.
Nice.
So
I think I saw that tweet.
Super stoked about that. That was like, yeah. The guy sent me the text. He's like, "Oh, we just got like this much money." I was like, "Oh, that's the number. Like that's what I needed."
Nice.
So yeah, that's cool.
So Seattle's obviously full of baristas. Is their reaction mostly positive?
Oh yeah, I've never gotten a bad response from any barista. Yeah, they're all really. I mean, everybody gets it. Like everybody gets the joke, and everybody everybody on that side of the counter gets the joke and gets the like tone that it's supposed to be read in. I get some negative feedback from time to time,
Yeah.
but they're mostly from customers who fit the archetypes of the folks that I'm satirizing.
Or has there ever been a customer that was like, "Oh, I think that was me," and like find the tweet that they
And I had one of them ask me about it, and I said yes. Like, I mean, I don't care. At this point, I don't care. And they're usually, I mean, like, they're dark, but they're not mean, I don't think.
Yeah, actually, that was the thing. The tone I got when I was reading it, I was like, that was my thought. Like, these aren't mean.
Right.
These are...
And that's intentional. Like, I'm not, like, a mean guy. And, like, it was always strange. Yeah.
I think the reaction would be different if you were, like, a dick. You know?
Yeah, totally.
which
I mean, I
not.
still get, like, there's, like, thousands of, like, gawker comments about, like, what a, like, dick and worthless piece of shit I am. Like, that's all on the internet. You can find it, but, like, it's not... The people that get the joke, I don't think... Like, once you see the joke, I don't think you can ever go back and be like, that guy's a dick. I think once you, like, get what the tone is, it works out okay, I hope.
Yeah.
I aim for that, you know? I'm not, like... I'm trying to make people's days better, not shit on people for stupid things that everybody does, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I've scrolled through them, and I think they're funny, and I've, in college and stuff, I've done a lot of... I've never been a barista, but just server and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's all the same. It's all the same. You just
Yeah.
and you run into the same people on either side of the counter, and so like, I don't know. It's better to joke about it than to cry about it. I guess like I could go either way.
Right. Are you cool now with the boss that fired you? Because I heard you emailed him, right? And we're like, this is gonna happen.
Yeah, so I emailed him. So right after the thing got published, I like sent him a panicked email, and I was like, hey. For the last 2 weeks, I've been, like, kind of running this website. But also kind of not. Like, I didn't really put the website up, but, like...
Right.
And so I was like, there's some stuff on there that maybe you might not be super excited about. Like, there was some things that are, like, making fun of, quote-unquote, my boss. But it's really just, like, the platonic boss, right?
Right, yeah.
He didn't find it funny. He didn't... I still haven't talked to him.
Oh, wow.
I still haven't talked to him. He didn't write me back. So I sent him that one email, and then I got a call back like an hour later from the manager, who was like, yeah, he's not very happy. And so then I sent him another email that night after kind of like the news had picked it up or something else had happened, and I was like, hey, there's like some momentum behind this. Like, you're a coffee shop in Georgetown. Like, it's kind of an edgy place. Maybe this could be good for both of us or whatever.
Right.
Also not a sentiment that he shared.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my manager called me the next day and was like, and you're done here.
Yeah.
So, but she was cool about it. And like, I got it. Like, I got the stakes of it, and I wasn't trying to like do damage to his business. And like, the people that outed me kindly put All City Coffee's Yelp page, like, linked to the Yelp page so people could like troll the Yelp page. And it was just like, okay, like, the writing's on the wall here. But then
Right.
like a couple months later, I ended up getting a coffee shop job at like my dream coffee shop, the station on Beacon Hill, and they don't give a shit.
That's probably good for business. They got
Yeah.
a celebrity working.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, and like they all get the joke, and it's like a neighborhood spot, and it's like I can keep doing what I do and also keep making good coffee, which is a thing that I do too. So
Yeah.
it works out okay. And yeah, it's been nothing but a blessing. It's really nice.
Right, yeah. And you're still actively
Mm-hmm.
running is it just at Bitter Barista?
Yeah, just bitterbarista.com is where you can find everything. At Bitter Barista, the Twitter handle is not me.
Oh, that's not you.
No.
Do you know who it is?
I do. I think one of my friends, right when the thing blew up, like went on a campaign to like get me all the Twitter handles, and I was like, I can do whatever you want. Like, so I think like they had talked at some point and they wanted like money, and I was like, this is not a thing that I actually care about. Like,
Right.
yeah. So, and there's been a bunch of like copycat people that have popped up, but like in truth, I'm more of a copycat of like that snarky, bitter, like a barista Twitter thing. It like that's been going on for years, and there's people that are far better than I am. We came up with a clever name and put a .com, and yeah. But it's been fun. It's fine.
Yeah, well, and especially now if you can actually make a couple bucks off the book, which actually I haven't seen, but just looking at it online, it looks like really slick. Like,
yeah, it's really well
just
done.
A nice design
and the same
everything.
designer that did the website did the book and took all the photos, and like he's hella good at his job. So yeah, it's really nice being. I really just write content, and it's like 140 character content, so I barely write content.
Right.
Yeah, but I really just try to post like once a week. At this point, it's like I want to keep it. There's like a little community on Facebook. That's fun. Those people are fun to interact with, so I do that more like daily. But I try to just update the website like once a week. It got a little watered down there for a while when I was like, I gotta post every day, and like
Right.
I'm just not that upset every day. Like,
Yeah.
nor do I want to be, So.
With the success of it though, have you ever thought about merging your two things and putting out like MC Bitter Barista,
No.
the single?
No, it was funny. One of the first interviews I did, like after it all happened, was with Mark Baumgarten, who was at City Arts then and is now Seattle Weekly.
He's been a guest on the show. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Really great guy. Like really thoughtful questions, and he asked me. This is like right as it blew up, and he was like, "Do you think this is gonna make it harder to like get your music out?" And I had like laughed and been like, "There's nothing that could make it harder to get my music out. Like, there's not like zero people are listening right now. Less people cannot listen, but it absolutely made it harder to get my music out.
Has it?
For like 6 months after it, I think I burned through a lot of like people, like close friends online that were willing to like share my material. Like they burned through a lot of that capital, like supporting me with the Bitter Barista thing and the Kickstarter, and I was kind of known in the Seattle press as this one thing, and you don't want to be known as one thing who has a side project as a rapper. Like that's not a good look,
Right.
So I know I've worked pretty hard to like keep them separate. It's not like they're two totally different parts of my personality that express entirely different things in totally different language, and it's just like I think it's a really cool side project, but I want it to stay away from me.
Right, yeah, well I can understand sometimes the media is like, you can't be two things.
Right.
You're either one thing or you're other.
Right, and
You can't,
and like I made the mistake, it was such a rookie mistake, like the first ABC News wanted to interview me.
Nice.
And I was like, dope. ABC News, fuck yeah. Like, I was like, but you gotta put, like, my rap video, like, on the thing, right? And I was like, I am a business genius doing business genius things.
Right.
And so, like, they had the article with, like, the rap video at the bottom. And, of course, like, every comment on there is like, he's a fucking rapper. Like, really? Now he's gonna, like, start a rap career? And I was like, yes, on a whim, I've started this rap career. I shot a video already for it. So, yeah. I learned real fast that the internet has there's no space for cognitive dissonance on the internet. Like, it does not compute.
Oh, and that makes sense in the way, too, because once you're famous for not being a rapper and then you want to be a rapper,
right.
It's, history has told us that doesn't work out.
It doesn't work. It's not
but
a good thing.
In your case, you were a rapper long before you were some guy on Twitter.
Right. So I definitely, like, I didn't, again, like, at the moment I laughed at that question and I didn't even realize it was happening for like 6 months. I just kept like hitting brick walls and being really frustrated because I had just seen how fast a news story could take off if somebody like gave a shit about it, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like pushing out press releases for like records that I worked really, really hard on, and everybody was like, "No, you're just like you do this other thing now," Yeah. So it really took like 6 to 8 months before like that stuff burned itself off and I could like send something with my government name and not have them be like, oh, you're the guy.
Right.
So I'm excited now. I think like I have balance now with now I'm the guy that made that Seahawks song and now I get to like battle that whole thing. Like,
right. Yeah. Well, luckily the internet is so forgetful that the better barista thing. But yeah, just back to the Seahawks thing, I forgot to ask. Do you know if Marshawn Lynch ever got to hear it, or did you ever get to hear a reaction from him or anything?
So I know he heard it. Like in the first few days, and then he was at the Blue Scholars performed Gio's version at an after party for Marshawn Lynch after the Super Bowl parade.
Oh wow!
And he was there, but he'd also been drinking heavily that day,
right? I saw
as was documented
with the
extensively,
fireball.
Right? Yeah. So I know he's heard it. I know it's gone into his ears, and he's heard it. I don't know if he was there for it, but yeah. So, but yeah, I never like heard from his people or anything. But I'm cool. I also didn't get like a cease and desist letter, which like I was very much expecting, if not from his people from the NFL. So
yeah, and the NFL is usually not really cool.
Not at all. And I did get an email from them. We ended up like working together on like this little video they put out. But even in like the article that they wrote for that video, they like explicitly said like we like got his permission to put his music out, but like we didn't have to get his permission because we have the rights to all of this stuff. Like it was like you didn't even need to add that sentence, man. Like just show the video. So yeah, it's sweet. That letter hasn't shown up yet, but who knows? I mean, I don't know. The NFL's really scary.
Yeah,
so
well, the second you make a couple bucks off of it, they're gonna be at your door asking for that couple bucks.
Exactly. So I've been really careful I've worked really hard not to make any money on this, and I put the ringtones up for free, and like everything is just Seattle can have this quote unquote song.
Well, and then just in the same vein of not doing the same thing twice, was there ever thinking about taking Sherman's after a program interview?
I mean, it was like
song?
People suggested it. I shot down the idea from a lot of people. I mean, it just wasn't like. It really was just like I really liked the way he said those like few words,
Right.
So I was just like, that's the thing I'm gonna sample. So, yeah, it really was just like my run of the mill, like digging for samples. Like that sounds cool. That's stuck in my head. Okay, let's put it in a beat. Like that's just the thing that I do all day.
Well, and the beat's so catchy. Like, and to hear that it was something that you just kind of threw out or did really quickly. Like,
it was definitely the fastest. It's the fastest I've ever put. I mean, it really is. Yeah, it's 3 notes. There's like a little piano chord underneath there. One of the notes in that chord is like out of key, and I didn't realize it's like after I uploaded it. And I like went back to make the longer version. I was like, oh, it's not supposed to be that note. Like, but like nobody's noticed. Yeah, I don't know. It is. I mean, it's catchy. I I can take no credit for that. I don't know. Like, I just picked 3 notes and they happen to be in key, and like I don't know.
It's perfect.
I turned it up really loud.
Yeah, I run a lot, so I've got it on my iPod on my running mix.
Cool.
And it always hypes me up a little bit.
Yeah.
Gets me in beast mode. And so, who are some of the other rappers that you work with? Because there's also a video and a song that I thought was pretty touching or pretty heavy. The what's it called? You've got a video. It's the Soldier song.
Oh yeah, All the Soldiers.
All the Soldiers. Yeah, I'm curious because that's not really a topic hip hop usually touches on.
Yeah, I think that's true. Which is weird, because we touch on every other topic.
Right.
And we dance around that one super gracefully. Or not great. I mean, like, we clumsily... Yeah. For anybody that hasn't heard it, the topic of the song is basically gun control. Or, yeah, it approaches that. There's some talk of it.
Yeah.
That's certainly what the video's about. Yeah, so that's featuring Akanamade, who's also known as Soul Child, who's been on the scene for a long time. He's a vocalist and a songwriter. And I've worked with him on a few projects. This was the first time he actually came into the studio and worked on one of, like, a Spekulation proper song. So, yeah, he's good. He's real good. He's got a catchy ear.
Yeah. So was it your beat, and then he was like, "Oh, I got some words I want to say over this"?
Yeah, it was my beat, and we had we started writing it like the week. I think I sent him the beat probably like the week after Trayvon Martin was killed, or the week after. I should say the week after, the month after Trayvon Martin was killed, because nobody paid attention to it for the first month.
Right.
So once that news story kind of hit, that's like as we were writing it, and then we kind of like let it fade into the background, and then Newtown, it's so strange. It's not Sandy Hook. It's so fucked up that there's so many that I can't even remember which one.
Seriously.
The Batman Theater shooting
happened,
and so then we were like, we gotta get this going. And at the same time, I had sent the beat to Chris Volkman, who directed the video, and had been like, this is kind of the themes we're touching on. And he got in touch with me like the week after that shooting happened, as I had already gotten in touch with Soul Child about writing it. And he was like, hey, are you going to do that? Because you really need to do that. Like, we need to build this thing. So it's cool. The video kind of turned out to be like a collaborative thing that like worked, that we built along with the song. And it's kind of like, I like that it's a very subtle video. It leaves, you can hear the music a lot more than with other music videos. So
yeah. And is that song on your latest album? Your latest album is Truth Be Told, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty recent. It's
from last April. Yeah. So that's just a 6-song EP. So that song is on there, indeed.
Yeah. Well, so I'm curious, as producer and MC, are you coming up with ideas as you're producing? Like, do you come up with a beat and then you're like, oh, this is what I want to say on that? Or are you like, I got something to say, this beat would go good with it?
It really just depends on the thing. On that record, on Truth Be Told, all of those songs started as sampled songs, and then I gave them to Nate Omdahl, who writes the live arrangements, and he wrote the string arrangements and some of the horn parts that are on there. But other times, he'll just write like a jazz piece or a classical piece, and we'll just go in and straight up just record it as that, and then I'll go and take that and sample it. And then other times I'll just like start writing verses to other people's songs or whatever, and then end up just putting them on something else. So it's become a lot more of an organic, like, I've kind of figured out the patterns of how I write, and I don't have to spend so much time being like, which phase am I in right now? You know what I mean? Like, I can kind of, I've got enough things in the air where I can keep that going, which is good for my sanity.
Yeah. And I think earlier you mentioned that when you were younger or in college, you were involved with like the slam scene. Is that before hip hop, or was it? It was parallel. I mean, hip hop, since I was like 6, was like the thing. That was like the thing for me. Right. That was like the world. Do you know what the first record was that like really turned you on?
Mama Said Knock You Out, was the first. That was the one that I wasn't allowed to own, but my friend's older brother had it, so I jacked the tape from him.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a Walkman, so I'd wait for my other friend to come over, and we'd have sleepovers. And I'd be like, all right, we got to go to bed early. And I would just borrow his Walkman and hide under the sheets and listen to it and just ignore the shit out of it.
Only your friend could have a Walkman.
Exactly. I think I had a Game Boy that he didn't have, so I was like, here's a Game Boy. I'm going to go over here and listen to Mama Said Knock You Out, like, over and over again.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was really just always into it. And then the slam poetry thing came more out of, like... I mean, it did grow out of the hip-hop thing, but more out of the, like, creative writing thing, because in college I was doing a lot of short fiction, and then that grew into the poetry thing, and that was always really dry to me, so then the spoken word thing kind of fit in there. So, yeah. I only did that for, like, 3 years. I found it to be a very monotonous scene. There's, like, only... I mean, I'm going to generalize, but there's usually only, like, one person at every poetry slam that like is able to cut through, and the rest are like super insufferable and like doing. I mean, it happens at rap shows. It's exactly the same at rap shows.
Yeah.
But at least there's sometimes they like pay for a good beat behind them. You know what I mean? Right. But like the spoken word thing, the like shtick that everybody does for their first 5 years, which is about as long as most people do it, is really it's insufferable. So I just had to get out of it. So
yeah. I'm curious. Have you seen The Other Side, that Seattle documentary?
I watched. I skimmed through it. Somebody sent it to me the other day. I skimmed through it. I haven't had a chance to fully digest it.
Great documentary. You should definitely check it out. But one of the common questions that seems to come out throughout the whole thing, and I'm curious if you have a take on it, but like, what's the Seattle... in just general hip-hop, not all music, just hip-hop. Like, does Seattle have a sound? Like, it's kind of like a question they ask throughout, and...
I mean, I don't... No. Certainly, like, different cliques in Seattle hip-hop have its sound, because a lot of them use the same producers, or are just, like, kids that have been learning from each other, right? But, like, it's so varied. I mean, like, from Blue Scholars... to More Gang, like those are two different genres of music, really, and like then there's Macklemore and like even like Macklemore and Ricky Farrow, who came up together. Like Ricky's doing like really dark lyrical like Rhymesayers style stuff, and Macklemore is doing the thing that he's doing. No, I don't think there's a sound, and I think it's on purpose, and I think it's great.
Yeah,
like I think we are every MC that I've met and producer that I've met is so impacted directly by the other scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I don't think that happens a lot of other places. It didn't happen in Jersey, and it didn't happen in New York when I was out there. So, yeah, the hip-hop scene is super cliquey within itself, but, like, they really do share well with, like, other genres in the town. And the other genres in the town are pretty phenomenal. So it's cool to see, like... I don't know, like Ross Zion from Common Market did that ambient hip-hop record a few months ago, and now, like, just did a record with Vox Mod, and, like, yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy scene. But no, there is not. I don't think there's one sound.
Yeah. That was kind of everybody's similar answer. And I mean,
I don't think you could point to any, like, I don't even think there's an inkling of a Seattle sound, really. Like,
yeah.
I mean... Yeah, certainly not as defined as, like, any other region that I can think of. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, we just don't. But it's great. It's not, like, a clusterfuck either. Or at least it has become less of one in the last 5 years, I think.
Yeah, and it's expanding. And then, last question. Because there is so much hip-hop in Seattle, and it's really huge in Seattle, and everybody who's involved with it is really supportive of it, and... like, not just the casual fan, like, going to shows, buying records, wearing T-shirts. Do you know, because I've lived in Seattle, like, 10 years, and I honestly haven't made too many steps outside of the city. But do you know how Seattle is looked at, like, as the hip-hop scene? Like, you know, everybody's got their opinion about L.A., New York, and the South. Like,
oh, yeah.
Is there a Northwest? Or, like, do people have an opinion yet, or have we not broken out? Obviously, Macklemore,
I don't think...
you know...
I don't think so. I remember when Macklemore was exploding, like, this time last year. Is that right? Yeah, this time last year when Thrift Shop was, like, really big.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to friends in New York and, like, just floating the question, like, so, Macklemore. And they're like, oh, yeah, that new guy. And I'm like, yeah, like, Seattle, right? And they're like, okay.
Right.
I don't think that enters in, like, and he reps the town hella hard. Like,
yeah, for sure.
That is not a shortcoming of his, by any means. But I don't think anybody's really looking at it. And, like, Blue Scholars got out of here, right? And people know Blue Scholars, and they rep the town hella hard, too. And I don't think anybody... And now, like, Raz Simone is doing big things. I don't know. I don't get the feeling that people really think of this place as a hip-hop town. I don't know if it is really a hip-hop town. It's got a dope hip-hop scene, but, like, I don't feel it. I don't feel it in the air the way I feel it in the air in New York, or the way I feel it in the air in Chicago or parts of LA.
Yeah.
But that's almost refreshing, because I do think that those places all have a really defined sound, because they're all doing the goddamn same thing like over and over and over again. And that's not a problem that many people have here in this town. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's a good place to end on. I really appreciate you doing this.
Cool. Yeah, thanks.
And what's your website and your Bandcamp so people can go...
Spekulation with a K, music.com is the website. And you can get to Bandcamp from there. All the records are available for free or pay what you want. Get them, share them with friends, collect them all.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
As the blunt ash collapses, I hop in the booth, spit that understandable truth shit. Go ahead and move with police schemes. Don't value life, they don't act right. Brutality's a tactic, harassing, don't ask twice. Remnants of a past life, grasp tight to power. If this is our last righteous hour, it's either fill the bottle with gas, light the towel, or grab my pen and a pad and a manic fracture out. I was never taught to settle, brought up a rebel, a devil on several levels. I revel in heavy rhetoric. When a growing percent of debtors are fed up, you better get ready, cause it's the end of your set of benefits. Too many miskept murders labeled missteps to even figure out how we all could fall to this step. I've been putting it in songs for too long, don't wanna exercise my right to do something wrong.
Have no one read the signs, another screaming sign. This clock ain't keeping time, world's falling before swine. Another siren cries, these hands ain't keeping time, world's falling before swine. All the soldiers are dying.
A middle-aged father of two caught two strays, waiting at a red light up on MLK. It was in the headlines for maybe a day, and I'm not even sure that it made the front page. Young man on a rampage shoots up a cafe, escapes on a city bus. What the fuck does that say? A public persona is homicide. Law and order's a priority only if it's traumatized. The police need the people and the people need policing, but the people fear the people in the precinct. So we need to rethink this whole thing. Cheers, here's to hoping. Second Amendment perpetually feel threatened. Anonymity's key, let them carry concealed weapons and manifest an unchecked aggression. In the name of public safety, we pray Smith and West.
Have no one read the signs, another screaming sign. This clock ain't keeping time, world's falling before swine. Another siren cries, these hands ain't keeping time, world's falling before swine. All the soldiers are dying.
So be afraid of the batons, be afraid of the rocks, be afraid of the badge and the kids on the block. Be afraid of every sermon and urban legend you ever heard. Be afraid of every word you never learned. Be afraid of your neighbor, no he wouldn't, would he? Be afraid of the headlights, be afraid of the hoodie. Be afraid of the dark skin, be afraid of the quiet kids. So afraid of dying that you don't even try to live. I'm a product of my environment, and my environment just up and ride and fight, and no one's hiring. Finally turning violent like David if Goliath was an iron Leviathan. Mayan and Ireland, Italy, and the Middle East. Even the streets of Greece see little peace. And in our own home we rarely see justice. Enough is enough, it's busted. Fuck.
Have no one read the signs, another screaming sign. This clock ain't keeping time, world's falling before swine. Another siren cries, has no currency here. Don't speak, being neighborly has no currency here. We write these checks, we make these laws. We good old boys, and by golly, we gon' protect what's ours. Second Amendment or secondhand smoke up my ass. Not a puppet, I'm human in the hands of my ass. But this is not mutual masturbation. I've not been goosed with my consent. Go ahead, exercise your right to bear arms, and I'll drop bombs to exercise your demons. Cause if gorillas gets to pulling triggers, we can all get up on pain and suffering. These scales in balance will surely bring the chickens home to roost. If all the innocents are the question, then I'm the answer, motherfucker. Brother outsider and brother grim reaper, I've come to collect. Supremacist teeth marks on my neck, a hood rat with rabies, concealed weapon or non-existent humanity, protection of property or vigilante. You want me to give a fuck about you, then you better give a fuck about me. Another Glock goes off on block, tick-tock, heart stopped.